that time. It's that
It
time.
is our time.
It's the time.
Yes, sir.
And I was slacking, man. You know, I'm a total slacker here, Bobby.
Not good.
You know, well, welcome, everybody.
Welcome
very happy to be
to
here.
our Synthside chat.
Let's see. Speaking of the chat, what is my chat working? There's nobody here. Oh, okay. Well, you said hello.
I just said hello.
Where's
I
the
said
all?
hello. Spin is here. Nick is here.
I don't see Spin.
The crew is here. Oh, did you just log in?
No. I mean,
He sent that message a few minutes ago.
I'm on. Oh, wait. I should maybe refresh the restream and make sure I'm on the professional. I am on the professional. So what's going on here? Why don't I see? All right. Well, Spin, can you text me and see if this is working? I'm going to try and refresh because I don't see Spin. Who else is here? I just see Nick.
Yeah, Nick is here.
Oh, Spin. Okay. Got him. I just had to refresh. You know, I'm not as tech savvy as you guys are. I don't think of these things of refreshing and stuff like that.
Let me switch us to the right place. There we go. Okay.
We're just switching it up tonight.
Right.
So, Bobby, let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
They're already, they're already talking about the butt bounce sample.
Oh, shit. Okay.
No, I'm just playing now. I mean, they are really talking about it, but
right.
Let's talk about what we're here to talk about.
Let's talk about I'll start with the thing that got me back into music, or that got me into composing, was I found out that legato exists. And I was like, whoa, you can do that? Because that was always my bar, right? Like, I would listen for music and be like, oh no, that's sampled, that's trash. And then legato. So my question is, I think legato was what, 2010? I only discovered legato in like 2021. So, but looking back at the history.
What do you mean by legato?
Do you remember the first sample library that had legato? Had the transitions between notes?
Yeah. I don't remember the first, no, but I think it must have been the VSL.
Okay.
Because they were always, when the Vienna Symphonic Library hit, it literally just changed I remember they had a booth at GDC. They came to GDC just to show. Yeah, no, it was a massive deal, you know. And they literally and everybody was talking about, you know, and I remember I said, you know, you guys are overlooking the supreme performances. These are real artists who are making these samples. This is like some of the finest players in Europe, you know, which it's just a different level of articulations, and everything was on a different level. So I think it must have been Vienna was the first. So what about legato changed for you? Like what did that do for you?
I mean, I just discovered how amazing sample libraries were.
Right.
And I had no idea that they had become so realistic. That, you know, I had a Boss Doctor 330, little tiny nothing. And that was, you know, from like 1994, when I was like 10 years old or some shit, or 13 years old. I don't remember how old I was in 10 years old. Anyways, long story short, the question is, you had legato, then you had round robin. I mean, I guess you had round robins first, right? And then you had legato.
Well, no. I mean, legato always, it was like, as far as sample libraries, I don't know which came first, if it was legato or
I should say legato transitions.
Okay.
I mean, legato is so.
And by the way, hello, Miles, and thank you, Jasmine, for your compliments. Sorry, go on.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Just want to try and stay up on the chat.
Of course. So round robins, legato, people started doing, you know, obviously Spitfire chamber strings and there was all this desire to record everything everywhere. Is it over? Have they recorded everything everywhere? Are we at the point where now we just get very minuscule diminishing returns and just kind of like, because even if you look at the rate of releases by, like, let's say Spitfire, right? They're not putting out stuff. East West, I guess they did their medieval fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy was the
orchestra.
last big, yeah. And then I
Right,
guess
and that
the
wasn't-
Hollywood Strings too, which was a really bad chamber strings.
Okay.
They were trying to do Spitfire chamber strings and failed.
Right. VSL came out with dual strings. Dual Ito or something like that. I don't remember. But the point is that none of these are
It's over.
generational leaps, right? None of these are insane, like, wow, like, I have to get that. Doesn't matter the price. That's going to make me sound amazing. Where are we with sampling? Is all the excitement gone?
Yes. The short answer is absolutely 100% yes. It's over.
Shit. Okay.
I'm here to declare that it is over for sampling. No, you know why? Because look, with my generation was like the first to grow up with affordable samplers, right? So when you look at the baby boomers and, Peter Gabriel and, those guys, like a sampler was like €100,000 proposition, to buy a sampler, right? You could buy a freaking house for the price of a Lexicon reverb. You know what I mean? Like it was just, It was prohibitively expensive. And I bought my first sampler for literally $999. And it was a PV, the amp maker made a sampler. And of all people. And it was just your basic sampler. And I made samples with it. And then DigiDesign, which got bought by Avid, did their sample cell 2 card, right? Oh, hey, FP, thank you. Let's give you a Brahm. That's like the minimum that you should get for, where are we here? Where's my Brahm? That's what you get when you subscribe. You get a Brahm, everybody. So I guess, so we grew up with affordable samplers, and they were so limited. And the only thing that sort of gave you any kind of expressive quality over your samples was how hard you hit them, because the sample was one sample that reacted to velocity. Yeah. And then you had your expression controllers, which nobody really used them. You just used your volume because it was the same thing. Expression is just the same, really. So I think, when VSL came, it changed the game. It had true legato or legato, and it had round robins. Now, there were only 2 round robins, but they were still
What about dynamic layers?
What
about dynamic layers?
Yeah, sure. Okay. There were dynamic layers and round robins. So
we explained it to the audience what all this is?
Right.
Or does everybody know?
Okay, so a round robin, for the audience, in case you're wondering what is a round robin. A round robin is basically when you have a series of samples that get triggered one after the other, depending on how many round robins you have and however many times you hit it. So for example, if I sample myself clapping, I did 8 claps and they were all the same dynamic or velocity, let's say, but they are all different articulations, ever so slightly different from the other. So no 2 are identical. They were fairly consistent though. So if I sample that 8 times and then I assign it to a key, I'm supposed to be getting a different sample every time I hit the key. And oops, sorry. So that's a round robin. When we trigger each one of these 8 claps, so there's 6 round robins I just did. So your sample library can contain, and for example, East West has some of their spiccato string samples are 16 times round robins, which means there are 16 of the same note. And if you hit your key 16 times, it'll shuffle through each one of those notes. A velocity layer is how hard or soft. So I could have 8 round robins of, very soft, medium, and loud. And, super loud, super quiet, right? So we can have, and what happens is when you have all these different velocity layers, and actually, you know what? I can show you this with one of my own sample instruments. Specifically the round robin, and how I played very loose with the rules in the sense that I wanted it to be a little bit sloppy. So,
Get a little bit more realism.
Yeah, to give it a little bit, exactly that. Right. A little bit more realism. So in my studio here, I have this instrument. It's called the Ruan, this guy right over here. And sometimes it's referred to as a Chinese moon guitar. And I've had this for, oh my gosh, I don't know, maybe 15 years or so. And I originally got it along with this guy up here. This is the Guzheng, because I was working on a game that needed
the one that only women play, right?
Huh? The one that only women play, right? Oh, you remember the story? Excellent. Yeah. So I was working on a project where the client wanted Chinese music, so I didn't want to do ding 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 ding. So funny, which is like very racist, stereotypical. Right. Anyway, so I got these instruments, and I made sample libraries with both instruments. And so this is one of them right here. This is Logan's Ruan, and I played it with these little drumsticks. These are called blast sticks, and they're little pieces of wood tied together. And so here, this is, you can hear. I'll play. You can hear each one is different from the next. They're not exactly the same hit. So then I did these rolls. So this gave me, and for me, this is going to sound very sad, but it's actually true. The reason I say that we've reached peak sample is that when I made this, I thought it was like a state protected secret, can't leave this lying around. It's only for Bobby and Emanuele and me it's part of Orb, and no one else can have this ever. And it was just like, I thought it was like the greatest. And now it's just like, compared to all the stuff that's out there, it's like a nothing piece of crap. But it has helped me, to make a lot of very cool, unique, and interesting sounding soundtracks. Right. And so one of the sort of featured pieces that I have that features that exact sample, there are 2 of them. They're both Ottoman themed tracks, and here's one of them.
Right.
Those nice little rolls and stuff. Yeah. And so for me, this is, it's like super cool. This is the other one. All this is real me, real samples. Right. And, so for me, this was really instrumental in making, these really cool game soundtracks that I'm really proud of. But compared to like everything that's been done and all the other stuff that's out there, and I heard other like boutique sample companies that were making like instruments that were like way cooler, way better than mine. And I use them because as a composer, you have to do everything that gives you an edge or, a slight advantage in term. And sometimes I would even layer it with my Ruan. And I also sampled the Guzheng as well, but it's not as cool as the Ruan is really cool. And Emanuele and I worked on that Ruan thing together. So he helped me, you know, with the programming and the trimming and the sampling and the edits and all that stuff.
So where do we go from here? And I think it ties into the question of originality, and if everybody's heard everything,
yeah, I know.
What do we have left? You know, it's such a
look. You know, let me ask you a question first. Okay,
sure.
How often have you actually used your Abbey Road strings from the Abbey Road Orchestra Spitfire library? Is it your go-to? Because we both bought it when it came out. I don't use it at all
the time. Here's the thing. It's in my template. I have a very small template, and that's the violin ones and the cello. I often end up switching it out because it takes so fucking long to load.
That's exactly why I don't use it.
I fucking love it. It's great. It sounds wonderful, but it is so damn slow.
It's not a professional
that it just
tool.
feels like a weight on my back, and I need a quick pizzicato, and it sounds lovely. It's even one of the best, but it's painful.
Right. They have the core and the professional version, right? So if you want, you can load the core version. It takes just as long. It's not much better. And so, like, you know, like, how is it that this company is creating a so-called professional product when it's unusable because it takes so long? I guess maybe their thought is that you set up a Vienna Ensemble network system and you just sort of keep it always loaded. I mean, I guess that's an option.
Paul doesn't use that.
Right.
You know, he loads it straight up. He never ever, and he just did a studio tour on his YouTube, and there's no. Yeah, he has a Mac Studio.
Oh, and by the way, for those that don't know, Vienna Ensemble Pro, it's a network sampling system, so that you can basically have a slave computer that is just got your instruments loaded 24/7 in Kontakt or in the, you know, Vienna Symphonic Library or whatever Spitfire you've got. Anything, it just reads standard libraries, and then it's just there on your network. And then you in Logic, it's actually a very good system. It's an incredible system, but I stopped using it because I found it very unreliable for Project Recall. You know, it was very unreliable. And I just kind of eventually, when the M1 series came out, I'm just like, look, you know, powerful enough. We don't need the Vienna Ensemble anymore. But
except for Abbey Road.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So yeah,
that was, if you just talk about sampling, right? That could be considered a, you know, not a great plugin for software development, whatever. But if you just talk about the art of sampling, right? So Spitfire said, we're going to go to Abbey Road and we're going to, you know, do something that nobody's ever done. What's left after that?
Yeah. Once you've got access to Abbey Road, like, yeah, that's it.
The most expensive studio.
You literally can't do anything better anywhere, right? Because you've got Studio One, which is the most famous. I mean, that's where Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi was recorded, right? And then you've got Studio Two, which is where the Beatles made fucking Sgt. Pepper's and the White Album and all the other great Beatle records. I mean, you can't get better than Abbey Road. They literally have perfected the art of recording. And so when you're on that stage, and then you take all the years of experience that, you know, Christian Henson and Paul Thompson, you know, being the developers behind Spitfire, like, that's it. You've reached peak sampling at that point. But okay, so let's talk quickly. I often talk about Marshall McLuhan on this podcast because he talked about this idea of the 4 laws of media. I don't remember all 4, I never can, but, you know, one of them is that any form of media, when pushed far enough, becomes the reverse of its intention. So email was pushed too far. What do we get? Spam. Okay. Financial products got pushed too far. What do we have? Credit card debt, right? Automobiles became so ubiquitous that we have what? Traffic jams. So literally, We were supposed to have mobility and speed of I can get to my grandmother now instead of a 20-minute horse and carriage ride. I can drive in 2 minutes.
Right.
Oh, there's traffic. Now it takes me 1 hour. Okay. So I think that literally that's kind of what's happened now in the sample world and the plugin world. We're peak plugin, we're peak sample library, and literally, okay, I am literally quoting Christian Henson when he was talking about the idea of the Albion series, where he asked Paul, he's like, Paul, how many of your samples are you actually using like every day on a project? And he's like, well, yeah, I guess only about 5 or 10%. What if we made a library that featured just that? And that's how the Albion series got born. And then, of course, Orchestral Tools copies them with their Metropolis Arc series, right?
Right.
And so these were supposed to make life easier, but now you have too many samples, right? And what I've seen lately on YouTube is this movement of Venus Theory is got this thing called Plugin, Slop, and You, right? And then there's another guy I just saw on a short who argues delete every single one of your plugins. Just don't use plugins anymore, or choose 10 to no more than 20 plugins and only use those, and don't use anything else.
Yeah.
Now
I have 4 terabyte SSDs. They are full of samples. I still can't bring myself to delete something off of them, because I'm like, what if one day I'm just fucking bored and I just want to scroll and pick up a different paintbrush with a different color?
That's right. Or what if I am working on a project with a client and they keep requesting something and they say, you didn't quite get it. Is there something else we can try? That's where you have to, because I think, as everybody knows, and I think this guy's argument was not necessarily with sample libraries. I think it was more like, do you really need, 35 different compressors, all that do the LA2A? Is that really necessary? No, especially not if you.
That makes sense. How many Pultec EQs do you need?
You don't. Right.
You
just
one
need
or
one.
two is
That's it.
plenty.
Just get one. Get the UAD.
Yeah.
They're the best in the business, by far the best in the business. I don't care what anyone else says. They invented the technology. What do you want? Right? They literally invented the 1176 field effect transistor compressors, and they bought Tektronix. So they literally perfected the LA2A, right? So they own Tektronix,
which is all you need. Right?
That's it.
And grab that LA2A. You don't need all the different versions and all that, right?
And so they're going to be able to make a Pultec 1A better than Pultec, as far as, because they have the development experience, right? Because they work with BrainWorks, right? So a lot of people don't know this, but BrainWorks is they're one of the main people behind UAD. They help UAD develop all the plugins, and they're the best. Together, those two, you cannot get anything better than that. So, do we really need the Chrysler Algae 2A?
No, you don't.
The CLA 2A. It's no, you don't need that.
I mean, as long as you have one of them, I think you're fine.
Yeah, they all do the same. I'm just saying,
just grab
I would
one
go with the UAD.
and be done with it.
And by the way, for those that don't know, UAD now has their Discover bundle or whatever it is. It's 11 of their best-selling plugins are now all free, including my go-to plate reverb, which is the oh my gosh,
Tell me that's free now.
Yeah, it's completely free now. The my God, what is it called?
$100 on that.
No, it's free now. It's now free. They've literally.
I know the one you're thinking of. Here, UAD.
Hold on a second. Pure Plate.
Pure Plate.
Now, it's literally my go-to. It's on my main template, and it's now free.
Let me show the chat. Look at this.
It's free.
It says free.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
It's free, guys. This is a premium plugin, and their LA2A free. Their 1176 free, and these.
Yeah, just get those and you're done.
That's it.
You're fine.
That's it. You don't need anything. You're done. You don't need anything else other than that, as far as I'm concerned. And especially anyone today who is using any DAW, everything built in is just fantastic. All I actually prefer
Logic plugins, Cubase.
I prefer Logic's
great.
Pultec 1A to the UAD. Why? Because on the UAD,
Because
you've got your 30 hertz, your
Right.
60 hertz, and you're stuck.
You can set to 35 or 40 or whatever.
Exactly.
Right.
You can slide.
Yeah.
You want 45.7 hertz. It's like you can get that. And this is where I also love Arturia, right? With the 33609
Right.
compressor. Because normally on the
Arturia
real
FX
one,
plugins are fantastic.
yeah, because on the real one, you just have fast and slow attack. Arturia was like, well, we do a lot of EDM. We want to have a little control over that attack.
Right.
We want to be able to slide it for, up to 75 milliseconds or, 50 milliseconds, whatever, So they're just like, hey, we're still going to allow you to have fast and slow, but we're going to give you a bunch of stuff in between, So they take what's great about that compressor, which is for drum compression, it's great as a drum bus compressor. And they're like, we're going to make it better. So I understand why some people, but then delete your other one,
All the other ones, right?
delete, just because. Now, will I ever do that? Never, because I have so many projects that use older plugins or,
Right.
what I have started to do. And actually, it's funny, we were talking about this the other day about Venus Theory and Dave Chappelle. I've made peace with both of them. Remember our conversation? I literally made peace with both.
Okay.
And for Dave
separating
Chappelle,
the art from the artist.
right, we were talking about, we were sort of extending that. But for me, it was watching Dave Chappelle being interviewed about the small town in Ohio that he's invested in, right? And he did these amazing things, and he saved their public radio station, the university run. And I was just like, oh, fuck, he's a good guy. He's got a good heart, man. So I sort of forgave. And Venus Theory,
so
just because
to understand people are way more complex than you can give them credit for in a YouTube video or in especially in a short, or even meeting them. You have to understand that people have so many sides. You're not going to like every side of every person. That would be weird, right? Like there's going to be something somebody says that just bothers you. You're like, I don't agree with that person. But I think when you know people in person, it's easier for some reason to feel that way. Like, I like this person, everything. I disagree with his politics on sewage treatment, right? I think he's totally crazy on that, but everything else I'm cool with.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the issue with social media, that we have to understand that we don't know these people.
No.
And
the whole
we have to
goal,
take each message one by one.
Right. And the whole goal of social media is like all or nothing. Right? Like there's literally nothing in between. There's no gray area. Anyway, with Venus Theory, the reason I sort of made my peace with Venus Theory was like, he's very smart. It's very hard to argue with some of his brilliance in terms of some of the things he actually says and how authentic he is. Like, this is the thing. He's extremely authentic. And as everybody knows, wait, I got to go because this button only works on full screen. Well, I'm always sort of struggling with this idea of authenticity and, anyway, but Venus Theory was sort of saying like, just get rid of just simplify everything. So I sort of did that, where I went and I deleted a bunch of plugins that I was firmly like, all right, that's it. I'm never going to use this again, ever. And some of them were, smaller companies like Shattered Glass Audio, who makes the SGA 1566, which I think is the best saturator ever made. And it's very similar to Decapitator, but in some ways better because it has this great EQ built in. And anyway, just love that thing. And so I wound up it's free. So to support the company, I wound up buying, Phoenix and this other saturator and a compressor, whatever. So, I spent about $100 or whatever, just, because I feel it's a responsibility, and I started using it all the time. But they never did updates. They haven't done an update, like there's still Intel plugins. And I'm like, all right, at this point in 2026, if you're still an Intel plugin,
that's DOA.
That's it. You're done.
Yeah.
You're off my system permanently. I can't, I can't have it, man. So, and there's a few exceptions. One mighty exception, which is the TAL filter. The Tau filter is the best, cleanest sounding filter I've ever used in my life. And it is my favorite filter. And they made the Tau filter too, and it's garbage.
Right.
So it's so bad and unusable that I still use the original, which is still Intel. And
So you load that plugin all the time?
no, I use it for one
Because
use case only. Just
okay,
one.
because my understanding is that even one plugin will cause Logic to run in Rosetta compatibility mode, right?
No,
It's all or nothing, no?
is it? I wouldn't know.
I think so.
Maybe, I don't know, but let's put it
think
this
so,
way: it's
yeah.
one specific use case that I use it for, and,
Okay.
and I don't use that very often. It's a sound design use case. So now
Well,
my
let's,
main
let's extend the conversation to
Yeah.
So sampling, they've
It's
sampled
over.
everything in every single way.
it's finished.
Yeah. Okay. Plugins. Every piece of hardware has been digitized 10 times over.
Yeah.
I don't know where you're going to make another whatever.
Well, okay, so that I can.
What about synths?
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we'll get
I
to
was just gonna
synths in 1 second.
Sure.
I'll just quickly point out Filter Arc, right? Which is where Korg basically took all of their
Oh, okay.
legendary filters from like the,
Right.
the MS-20 and the Poly 6 and some of these classic Korg synthesizers. They took like the filter section, right? Because on the MS-20 you can feed audio in and filter it with the synth filters, and it was so they took all of their famous filters from all of their legendary, the ARP Odyssey, and like you name it, like every legendary Korg synth, and they built this sort of mega filter plugin. And I love filters. I mean, I love my filters, right? So,
Right.
so for me, it was, I told you about it, right? Like how I,
Yeah.
just basically immediately, I got a preview of it and then immediately bought it because I was like, this is useful. I'm going to use this,
Right.
And so my main kind of go-to filter is still just the standard MS-20 Korg plugin, because they took the whole filter section and made it a separate plugin. So this is on top of that. This is like an extra. And so what they did is they made like sort of like it's almost like a pedal board, but for filters, right?
Okay.
So you can sort of
It's
load
like
up
Faceplant,
multiple,
right? Like you can put multiple ones together and
so you can
rearrange
have
them.
like
Yeah.
one audio signal going through simultaneously 4 different filters. You can have
Right.
each one work independently or send one filter into the other filter. I mean, it's like really robust. That's about it. That's about all you're doing in the world of plugins. You're just sort of multiplying
Right.
what already exists, because now we have, now speaking of synthesis, we have granular
So like Zebra
synthesis. Right. We have Wavetable. We have all these new forms of synthesis. And some of that makes its way into plugins, right? Like Output has the, my God, I forgot the name of it. Oh, very famous Portal, which is like a granular,
Right.
which I bought and I literally have never used because like my license stopped working and I emailed them. They never got back to me. So I'm like, screw you guys. You don't care about your
No
customers.
shit.
Yeah. Don't care about your customers. Fuck you. Sorry, but
I use Movement a lot by them, but yeah.
I
go
was
ahead.
really, really upset. And I sent multiple emails and I checked my spam filters. Like, I know how to use emails. So anyway, but yeah, in terms of like synths and like, sort of how this sort of extent, and by the way, I have not, been
So
checking the
Jasmine
chat.
has an interesting question that we'll get to, but I want to ask specifically.
Tell me.
Zebra 3 just came out, right?
Right.
I got it because it's Yuhi and Zebra, and it is amazing.
Yep.
But I question, does it sound different than Pigment Zebra 2? Is it yes, okay, there are some improvements in this and that, but fundamentally there's no.
Well, why didn't they make the effects section a separate plugin? Did you notice that? If you
Right.
have, right? Why did they get rid of that feature?
That would have been Yeah.
That's an incredible feature. Why would you remove that? And maybe in an update they'll bring it back, because I think a lot of people will be upset, or I don't know, maybe I installed it wrong, but all I know is it doesn't show up separately anymore, and it did in Zebra 2, right? And that was incredible. I used it, so I was disappointed. I feel the UI is worse. I think Zebra 2 just looks better. Right. Now, to your question, I mean, I think the answer is not like, I don't think it's so cut and dry. I think that certain forms of synthesis fundamentally just sort of sound different than other forms. If you look at a synth like Europa, right, from Reason Studios, right? Basically, they made all of because you have your sort of standard oscillator types, your sawtooth, your super saw, your triangle wave, your sine wave, your square wave, and they made all these like weird, crazy, weird shapes that you've never seen in your life before, and they were all really weird, and the result was a really unique sounding synth. But nobody's ever heard of Europa. Nobody uses it. And it was so popular inside of Reason, it was the first standalone plugin that Reason Studios ever made, right? Now, all their whole thing is now a standalone plugin. But before that, I mean, I still have my Europa standalone plugin. It was a great synth, So I think that there's really, like obviously there's different types of synthesis. You have frequency modulation, subtractive, wavetable, granular. And I think that each one sort of has their place in the world, but I think it really comes down to the synthesist.
Right.
Skrillex sounds like Skrillex, not because of any one plugin. It's because he's Skrillex, because he's a real artist. You know what I mean? Like Deadmau5 is very different than Skrillex. I would not describe their music as even being similar. And he, doesn't sound like Deadmau5 because of any one plugin or any one piece of gear. There's the Zebra HZ edition, right? Which is the Hans Zimmer. I wonder what the HZ stands for.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but he doesn't
sound
like Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer presets.
What's that?
Which is just Zebra with a bunch of Hans Zimmer presets.
Right. And so, and he did also similar things with Spectrasonics, right? On the, oh God, what was it? The Moog
Legacy?
Bob Moog tribute pack, right? There was like the Hans Zimmer. I remember the toms he did. I think the Crimson Tide toms. Yeah, Spectrasonics.
Right, but there's another synth he just put. Oh, Synapse Audio, the Legend HC.
There.
With 8 oscillators.
Yeah. So, look, I mean, what does it all mean? It's...
Show the stream.
Look at that. The Legend HZ. So, that just looks like a Moog to me,
Right. So what, I mean, this is just like,
look, I can maybe
like getting a celebrity to brand your cologne, right? Like that's.
Sure. I think I can maybe sort of speak to this with talking about my adventures in modular. Okay.
Okay. Sure,
all of this modular shit here, and all of this modular, I shouldn't really call it shit, but all this modular stuff over here, that's an ARP 2500. That's a semi-modular ARP 2600. That's a copy of a Moog System 55. And there's also a System 100M or a System 100 from Roland. I got these things because I'm deeply fascinated with modular. Now, literally 100% of everything I could achieve using the VCV rack, which I bought to sort of help myself, the pro version anyway, help myself learn about modular. But there is nothing better than the feeling of sitting in front of a piece of technology and moving the knobs and the sliders and hearing your sound change. Now, can that be also achieved with, like the Nectar CS12 I talked about yesterday? Of course it can. Can it be partially achieved, with the Monogram CC? Of course it can. But for example, like I'll tell you 100%, if I have my hands on the virus over here, and I'm using, if I turn this guy on, and then all of a sudden I can now control the virus plugin using this guy right here, it literally feels exactly like the same as being on the virus,
Right.
And so, it's there is this absolute tactile relationship that you have between your equipment that is a physical sensation. You don't necessarily need the originals because, oddly enough, for example, like all the synths in this rack over here and all the synths behind me, every single one of them now is all hooked up with MIDI and audio. Every single one,
Right.
with one exception. This guy right here. Because the virus doesn't need audio, because literally the plug-in clone is exactly the same. So I only have it hooked up with a MIDI cable so that the MIDI can control the plug-in. Now, oddly enough, I do have the audio of the JP8080 hooked up, even though the plug-in is identical. Why? The plug-in is missing.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's missing one of the most important features, and the difference between the JP8080 and the JP8000. The plug-in is a clone of the 8000, not of the 8080. The 8080 has this section, which is a vocoder. The 8000 did not have a vocoder, and I can turn the banner off so that, why is the banner not going off? That's really weird. It's like permanently on there. Anyway, so there's a vocoder section here, and there's an effects section. And the effects section has this incredible, why are we not? Oh, there we are. Okay.
Yeah, I was doing that.
Okay, we're good now. The effects section has this incredible distortion. And so some of the patches in here do not sound the same because they're missing the effects section.
Well, doesn't the fact that it's analog also change?
It's not
right?
analog.
If it's on for 3-4 hours?
It's not analog. The JP8080 is digital. It's 100% digital. This was made as a clone to this. So even the same amount of rack spaces. So this was like a digital copy of this, which is analog, and yes, has to be on for about 10 minutes before it works correctly.
Right, right.
Even when I first turn it on, the audio will just go. And I have to leave it warmed up for 10 minutes before it stops cackling at me. This is digital. This is 100% digital. It's not analog.
Okay.
So, and the point is there are two sections missing. The vocoder, which actually I never use the vocoder, honestly, but the digital effects section, they have one on the JP8080. The difference, though, is the JP8000 has an effects section, but it's just chorus, delay, and reverb. This has chorus, delay, reverb, flanger, and the key, distortion, this beautiful distortion. And that's why I keep the audio hooked up on this, just for those effects, because they're that good. So the patches I made on here don't sound the same on the clone version. Whereas, just real quick, on here, it's 100% identical. They literally one-to-one copy perfectly. That's why I don't have audio hooked up here, and I do have audio hooked up here. Anyway, you were saying. I'm just going to get some drink here. Go ahead.
Sure. I was going to bring up Jasmine's question about, can the abundance of all these libraries stall creativity?
Yes.
It's interesting that I hear this often, right? The scariest thing is the empty page. You pull up the empty project and you're like, okay, start. And then when you start to limit yourself, like when you have rules, right? If you were to just open Logic and say, I'm going to write a song.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Not, I'm going to write a song for this project. The brief says do this, and this. I'm going to write a song. And then you have all these sample libraries to start one off. That is,
it's
like
called,
decision paralysis,
there's a name
right?
for it. Yeah, preset paralysis. You got it. It's called preset paralysis. I think you said decision paralysis, but
Well, that's the idea of too many options.
Yes.
That when you have to decide on anything on a menu, if it's like 5 pages long, and you're just like, I don't know, I'll just get a fucking burger.
look, I think that look, unlimited choice is one of the worst things for an artist, right? Stravinsky says, the more limitations I place upon myself, the more creative I become. Okay.
Absolutely.
Look at the one of the greatest films ever made, Star Wars, which, Lucas didn't have enough money to make it. He couldn't make the real version he wanted. He had to cut it down. All those limitations, forced his creative hand, right? And then while he was still in that way of thinking, he made The Empire Strikes Back, which maybe is the greatest film of all time, certainly in that genre, I think.
Yes.
And then
for sure.
the beginning of the end, right? The Ewoks defeating the Empire. That's just literally like the beginning of his sort of downfall, where he had unlimited money. No one would say no to him. He got everything he wanted. He took too long, too many edits, too many, rewrites, too many reshoots, too many then that's it. He couldn't make a film to save his life. He spent 15 years developing new technology just so he could make episode 1, 2, and 3, and they all sucked,
Yeah.
So, it's, so I think that especially now, first of all, yeah, it's over. Plugins, over. The sample libraries, over. How many times in your feed are you like, and check out my new chord pack, check out my new melody pack, you don't even have to be you don't even have to be talented, just use my chords, How many times have you got, check out my new drum library, super pack, and whatever, check out this free string check out my new free compressor that does everything everybody else's compressor does. And check out my new drum library that has nothing. Like, why would I use Steven Slate drums?
Right.
I'm not going to use Slate anything,
Yes, I agree.
I think it's all, fucking more of the same shit. And his stupid controllers, like, that are glorified iPads, like, sorry, but the whole reason why, these are dominating is because people want tactile. They want the physical control. They want to feel the knobs moving. They want to, they don't want a piece of glass that has no tactile response. I don't know. Anyway, so limitations breed creativity. Well said, Nick. And yes, Jasmine, we have an overload of everything right now. That is absolutely true. So I think that, okay, so I'll tell you one of the greatest creative exercises I ever was given. So I was once a staff writer, composer on a team of writers working on a Disney show. And my superior, his name was Asher, wonderful guy, great mentor. And, I was having a creative problem. I was trying to write songs for this album project I was working on. And I was just like, it's just nothing is coming. He's like, all right, David, I'm going to fix the problem. I'm like, how are you going to do that? He's like, all right, I want you to sit down in front of your K2500, because he had one too. We had the same thing.
Right.
He's like, and I want you to find the 8 worst sounds in the entire the worst ones, the worst sounds that you've ever heard in your life that you think are just pieces of garbage. I'm like, okay, why? He's like, just do it. And then once you found them, I want you to write the best piece of music that you can write with the 8 worst sounds that you found. And it was amazing what I came up with. It was a real challenge. And you know what? I remember one. I'll play this for you guys, okay? Because it's pretty hard to believe.
Okay.
I don't know. It's no, not that, but something else that stuck with me.
Okay.
So this is, well, the act. It's a sort of an extension in a way. Let me just see if I can find this for you here. It should be over here. So what this is, when I left LA, let me just quickly There we go. I found it. So when I left Los Angeles, I had a house in Mid City, and I was, selling the house. And anyway, whatever, the house sold, and, all my shit was being, shipped out. And I had to close the house, and I'm literally sitting there in a completely empty house. Okay. And I just had an air mattress. And all I had with me was this shitty little Yamaha controller. It was like a little small, tiny controller, and it just had some General MIDI built-in sounds. And General MIDI, as people know, was, not high fidelity at all.
Yeah.
And so I remember I just had a laptop there was no sampler, no nothing. The only source of sound I had was from this little synthesizer. And I had a little pair of headphones plugged in, no audio interface, just MIDI. And so the challenge of only having General MIDI made me do this. Here we go. This is all General MIDI. This is not mixed in a studio. This is just a General MIDI synth. No effects. That's supposed to be a bassoon.
Shit, I thought it was an electric guitar. Okay.
I drew in the filters by hand. Everything by hand. Yeah. I'll skip to this other part here. Let's see here. Hear those LFOs drawn by hand. When you've got nothing but time,
Right.
those are all handmade delays. Because if you have nothing but time, you're going to make the most detailed, intricate,
Right.
And so, yeah, limitations spark creativity that because when else would I ever sit down with a General MIDI synth and just only use the onboard sounds?
Yeah.
When would you ever do that?
You
would never do
That
that.
just sounds painful. Right.
Right. So that's my my experience of it anyway.
Right. Okay. Let me ask you a completely opposite side.
Yeah.
Still in the world of art. How do you deal with criticism? Because I'll tell you so my wife is like my producer, right?
Okay.
And I will play something and I'll bring her in and I'll be like, hey, what do you think? And she'll look at me and be like, I think you can do better. And it drives me nuts.
I love your
And
wife,
I
by the
get
way.
so-
Tell her I love
She
her
is
for
wonderful.
being honest with you, because
She is wonderful.
well, you can even let her watch at timestamp. Where are we? 58 minutes. Okay, this is for you, Sheila. I always say that if somebody that is not your wife loves your music, then probably you've done well. But your mother,
Right.
your wife, or your girlfriend will always say
Right.
your music is brilliant. So the fact that Sheila will say, I think that's awesome. You got a
All
good
the
one.
time.
You got a good one,
all
Bobby.
the time. Yeah, I know. So she'll come in and be like, I think you can do better. Or I don't like it. It doesn't sound good. You should try again. And I'm apoplectic, right? I'm like, I wrote something incredible and she just totally shit on it. But she's right. Fundamentally, she was right. And then I would go back and I would calm down and I'd be like, okay, let me try something else because it didn't click. How do you deal with that when it comes to art, right? When it was your solo CD, your solo album versus the client just says, it's not working for me.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that I think the answer lies in it. I think that it all changes depending on your level of artistry. In other words, becoming an artist is a journey that, I think that, like even today, I sometimes even question, like, am I a real artist? And then I sort of say, well, what does that even mean to be a real artist?
Right.
So I think that art is just like a journey. I think it's something that the artist has no choice and no say in doing. They have to do it. Right. And so I think that for me, I've had a long career, and I would classify myself as moderately successful. You know what I mean? Like I don't live in poverty. I can buy some nice toys and good plugins, and I've consistently been working, right? And Orb Soundworks is a going concern, right? So it's been in business, and there's always work, and I'm not begging in the streets, and I don't teach because I desperately need the money. I teach because I just genuinely love helping people. So so in this career, I've had a lot of criticism, actually. Yeah. I've had a lot of people say a lot of different things, about my music. I guess the big one that comes to mind would be my soundtrack for X-Men Mutant Academy. The reviews were just brutal on the music. Every review of the game, was like, it's a fairly mid kind of game, and with a matching soundtrack, equally mid to bad, and I was trying to sort of reinvent the wheel of electronic. I was sort of looking at, Mortal Kombat, that whole style of sort of what we call techno music. And I wanted to go above and beyond all of it. And I was trying to really make a masterpiece. And I spent, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks or so in the studio just making sounds, not even composing, just building a literally unheard of library. And also it's partly why I could not part with these devices, the blue and the red guy up here. They were very important in the development of X-Men. They're just effects processors. Anyway, the Super Jupiter was used, the JP-88, like everything was used on that soundtrack. And the filter challenge, which I don't think anyone actually took.
Look, I've tried.
It's almost
tried
impossible.
Multiple different.
You want to know what? I'm
tempted to try with Zebra 3 though.
Okay.
Because I saw a couple of things that might help.
Do you know where I got the closest, in fact, was in VCV Rack Modular. Yeah, it's the closest I've ever come. But regardless, I used the K2500. I literally all the King's horses, all the King's men, I just literally used everything. And I used bass guitars, my electric guitars. I used drums. I used drumsticks on my electric bass. I punished my bass. I literally bought a Dan Electro copy, a clone, for $250 at Guitar Center, just because I had a nice Fender P bass. I wasn't gonna be smashing that and beating it up with drumsticks. I bought the Dan Electro just to beat the shit out of it. Ironically, I sold the P bass and kept the Dan Electro clone because it sounds so unbelievable. It's the best bass I ever owned. Never replaced the strings. It sounds amazing to this day. Love that bass. Anyway, not the point. I wanted to make an absolute masterpiece. And so I spent weeks in the studio just like a mad scientist making crazy ass sounds. I even worked with Justin Smith, who was an engineer that I worked with on several album projects. And we even went into 1-on-1 South, this amazing studio in Hollywood, and made these insanely distorted, crazy drum samples, which all got used on X-Men. All the stuff I did at 1-on-1 South, all of it got used on X-Men Mutant Academy. And so, literally time, money, resources, booking big rooms in Hollywood to make these insane ass drum sounds. And everybody hated it. Now, I'm going to give you my very honest reaction. My very honest reaction, literally my heart broke in my chest.
Yeah.
But then I was like, fuck them. You made a great piece of art. and you made a masterpiece, and you know it's a masterpiece. And to this day, I see it as a masterpiece. However, I do understand the arguments as to why they didn't like it. Because
Yeah.
I took this masterpiece of like sound wizardry and studio, electronic circuitry that I did. And in the end, I wrote epic, symphonic, cinematic themes
Right.
that then were played by a session guitar player with a beautiful distortion tone. And that kind of ruined the gritty, dark electronic vibes. I was sort of trying to combine two worlds. And in my
Right.
brain, it worked. And I listened to it today and I understand what my intention was. But even today, I will listen to certain parts of it, of that soundtrack, and I'll be like, oh, fuck. So the way I handle it is you know what? I think that every artist, first of all artists in some fashion suffer from some kind of a mental health disorder. And I know now, like, talking about your mental health is almost like, it was like so cool for a long time, and now it's sort of like not cool anymore. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but I talk about it like it's like catching a cold, like I had a flu last week. So I don't give a shit. But I think that all artists do suffer in some form, and certainly I do. And I think that every artist has this innocent, sort of childlike, let's say it, the child inside of the adult, let's call it. And
Okay.
I think that our adult, sort of conscious, aware selves are fiercely protective of that artist inside, the childish part of us, right? And so I think that I am so protective of my inner self because of all the fucking years of damage that just, like
Right.
scar tissue, if you will. And so I think I tend to just sort of almost, it's like, what do you call it? Like this dissociative, cognitive dissonance kind of thing, in a way, where I'm just like, that they didn't really say that. There's no way they said that about
Okay.
X-Men.
Straight up
Like
denial.
I literally will just deny. I just deny that
Right.
anyone ever said anything bad about X-Men. Whereas the fully adult David Logan, who's talking to you right now, very much knows it was said and remembers that feeling of just,
Right.
but it was a similar feeling. Remember the story of the high school composing teacher that said I had no talent and I was wasting my time. Similar feeling. I was like, and then I was just like, well, fuck her, she has, what does she know? And literally turned out she knew nothing in the end. Right.
Right.
So I guess the way you handle criticism now, if it's coming from a client, that's a really different kind of criticism. And that, all you can do is you have to okay, so I'll give you the first example. In fact, I told you earlier, I was like a composer in a jingle studio. My first professional job, I was a writer in a jingle studio. And I remember my boss came in, I was writing a commercial for David's Bridal Superstore, David's Bridal Superstore. That was the first jingle I ever wrote. David's Bridal Superstore. And I had to rewrite it a couple times. And I remember once in one of the rewrites, my boss was just like, that bass line is just shit, man. You got to remake that. And I remember just being like I was so hurt. So from a very early point in my career, I learned that in order to survive, you have to completely disassociate yourself from your own work, specifically your ego. You literally have to remove the ego, because you literally have to understand that, if I think that, that this sounds beautiful, well, that does not sound beautiful because it's on
I
a
thought that sounded
Rouen.
pretty nice. I like that.
Okay, but I was hoping that I was actually on a piano sound, but I wasn't. But okay, let's so if I think this sounds beautiful, and I maybe put some reverb on it.
Nice.
And I think that's lovely. I might think that's lovely. Somebody else might think, what the hell were you? That was so weird. What was it? And they may hate it. And so what you have to understand is that they don't hate you. They hate what you did. And this goes back to our thing. So about separating the art from the artist, you have to separate you from your art, because you will not survive professionally otherwise. You will literally never survive. And so,
don't you think it fundamentally makes you better, though?
Yeah.
Every time somebody comes to you and says, 100%. Hey, your first thought wasn't good. Do it again.
Absolutely. Look at the bass line in my Tales of Destiny soundtrack, right? Originally, it was written as like a hip hop, boom, 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 right? And then Yas is just like, no, I need like a symphonic orchestral bass, And so then it became boom, beep, 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 boom, 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 beep,
Right.
And it was so much better. It was just so much cooler, because I was trying to be cool by putting in the funky bass line. And he was like, dude, that just doesn't work. It just doesn't sound good. And he didn't mean it in a bad way. He just literally, he didn't think it sounded good. He's like, I just want it to be orchestral and symphonic. So then the challenge for me was, how do I make a cool bass line using orchestral double basses? And the answer was what I did in the final, which wound up sounding way better. Because I went back and actually, when I was resurrecting it a couple months back, I listened to that funk bass line and it was terrible. So he was right. So I think that every artist sort of has this internal struggle between criticism and their own art. But I think that every artist is, in the end, like one of the greatest artists of all time. And it's going to be the strangest thing that you could ever hear me say. But this person is an artist in every single sense of the word. And they're literally, I think, the greatest artist in human history. And it's Steve Jobs. I know it's like such a strange answer.
I knew it was going to be Steve Jobs. Okay.
Yeah, no, sure. But he literally thinks as an artist. He works as an artist. He deconstructs as an artist. He pushes boundaries as an artist. And in the end, the Macintosh, he understood that he changed the course of humanity with this computer, which is why he signed the inside of the first Mac and had the team sign it as if it were a work of art. And this is all the proof you need. And he had the ego of a great artist, like a Picasso, basically. And so there's another great artist, right? Picasso, right? Stravinsky. Right. I mean, these are master artists, the best in their game. And they didn't give a shit about the critics. They didn't care at all. Look, imagine being the Beatles.
But these are artists, though, right? Okay. So it's and that brings me to your solo album. And I wonder if somebody criticized you there, like, because it's almost easier when it's a client, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out what you want. Fine. But when somebody criticizes you as your personal art, it's like, where do I go?
It's very different. And, for probably the first month after my solo album came out, like I was religiously checking comments because I was so frightened and fragile. Mm-hmm. And by the way, this was the reason I didn't release that album for like 30 years. It was 30 years in the making, that album. Not literally, like I wasn't working on it, but some of the songs on there, were 25. One of them is from 1997. That's like 29 years. 29 years ago. So literally it was 30 years in the making, actually, that record. Now that I really think about it, because the mix wound up being almost identical to the mix I did in 1997. So all the samples were the same. It was, literally that album is 29 years in the making. So I would check religiously because, I was so afraid to release a solo album because, it's exactly right. Okay, some critic, keyboard warriors like, X-Men Mutant Academy soundtrack sucks. It sounds like Saturday morning cartoon music, which is what they literally said that about my X-Men music. Okay, I got over it. But, to this day, I still think it's a masterpiece. I still stand by the music, the artistic, credibility of that sound. I think it's one of the best things I ever did in my life. but I understand why people said it sounds like Saturday morning cartoons, right? Because in a way it kind of did, because I had sort of like a cheesy 90s guitar sound. Anyway, I guess, yeah, but to your point, yeah, it's, and then I eventually I just let go. I was just like, you know what, it doesn't matter what people think of the solo album. The point is you did it, and you did it because the people who love you around you said it's not fair to keep the world distanced from your real music, right? Because to your point, Bobby, you know, if somebody doesn't like X-Men or Reign of Titans or Pac-Man, well, we know everybody here loves Pac-Man World 2, but you know, you never know. Hey, how could anybody hate Pac-Man World 2? Honestly, could anybody really hate Pac-Man World 2? I think it's impossible to hate a melody like, you know.
There it is.
There
it's
it
gonna
is.
Be stuck in my head all day now.
Now that's it. I just ruined your day.
All day. Yeah.
But I guess, you know, yeah, if somebody doesn't like Play With My Heart, you know, my solo album, which has 13 songs directly from my soul, man. I mean, deepest part of my soul. I mean, Blood and Bones is a deeply personal song. Like, it is literally it's the song about, you know, abuse that I suffered in my life and how I survived it and how I managed it and how, you know, how much it affected me and how painful it was. And I mean, if you listen to the words in those songs, like, it is just, so somebody's just like, yeah, it's really like, it's too dark and cheesy and, you know, blah, blah, blah. The guy's just like complaining about his life and like, well, okay. Again, like the adult David Logan can hear that and be like, well, clearly this is just a hater, right? Hater's going to hate. But if you just heard my voice, literally just had a fragile crack moment there, like I was going to cry. But the artist, the little kid, is just like literally tearing up because it's like so personal and private and painful.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't want to release that album. But I cannot begin to tell you how proud of myself I am that I did, in fact, at the age of 55 years old, come out of the closet as a recording artist, singer, songwriter. I was in the closet singer, songwriter, you know, producer.
Yeah.
But like, you know what? I look at a guy like Charlie Puth and I even just think about him and I want to cry because the guy's just doing it, man. And he's 100% sincere and authentic. And I just love him. I love Charlie Puth. I think his songs are wonderful and pure and honest, and he loves music. It's just like the pure joy in just watching him doing what he does. And I sort of look at him and I look at him and I'm like that's who I should have been, you know, not that I'm as talented, because I'm certainly not. Like Charlie Puth is like an insane monster talent in my opinion. But like in terms of like being brave, I should have done that, you know? JT has not heard my, I'll tell you what, I'll give you my link tree, JT. But yes, I put out a full solo album and, let me give you the link tree. Hold on a second. I
did not give the right link.
This is my link tree. And from here, you'll be able to find literally everything, including my live orchestra recording session with me recording a live video game soundtrack with a real 53-piece orchestra. That's the thing I'm the most proud of, by the way. But I'm proud that I did my album. Anyway, I look at Charlie Puth and I'm like, I idolize him for being brave, for just fearless artist. Just go out, make your music, man. You know, go on you know, The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon and, you know, tap on a mug and then make a song out of it. Like, you go, Charlie Puth. You're amazing in my view, you know. Whereas I look at it, you know, I look at somebody like Lady Gaga and I just think, I sort of feel like in a weird way, like she's like an artist, like posing as an artist, but perfectly playing the part of an artist. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying she's not one. I'm not saying that.
Right.
I'm just saying that like the whole like House of Gaga and, you know, like it's just like pushed too far. It's like, You know, just shut up and make good music.
You're trying too hard.
Like, just shut up. Shut the fuck up. Make good music and stop all the other bullshit, you know? And you know, you're just sort of like copying Madonna and pushing it too far, you know? Like, just make your because here's my point. As a singer and a songwriter, she's enough. She doesn't need, right?
Yeah, she's
like,
great.
She's already, and this is why I'm not saying she's not. She is a legit bona fide artist. No question.
Right.
Just lose the distractions. Just get rid of all of it. You know, Queen went up on stage and they performed. You know, they did their thing. They made their show. They went into the studio. They pushed boundaries. They made new frontiers in music that never existed. Why? Because they were pure artists. Every one of them at the top of their freaking game, man. One of the greatest bass lines ever written, right? John Deacon. Boom, 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 boom.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the best bass lines ever. And that was, he wrote that song, right? I'm pretty sure he wrote that song, right? And then, you know, Brian May, We Will Rock You. He wrote that one, like one for right? Like boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. But then Freddie on top, buddy, you know, and you know, yeah, sure. Freddie Mercury was theatrical and sometimes he wore a little bit of makeup and had a unitard on and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, whatever.
That's part of the show.
But that's part of the fun. But they didn't like come out. They didn't come out, you know, at the Grammy Awards wearing a dress made out of meat. You know, like, I mean, and so what are we going to remember Lady Gaga for? Poker Face or for the meat? Because everybody remembers her for the meat dress.
Everybody remembers that roast.
So is that what you want to be remembered for? Really? Like, and I respect her as an actress. Like, I think she's really good. Actually.
Yeah, in Gucci, she was great.
She's real. I mean, she was amazing.
I really enjoyed her. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, legit great. You know, you can call me Senora Gucci. I was just like, is that her? Like, holy shit, man. So I think she's a legit artist. I'm just saying you don't need the other shit. And that's what I love about Charlie Puth. No bullshit. Just no bullshit, man. Just no bullshit. And he just writes great songs, man. And just his little clever production. I can hear you over here. I can hear you over there. I can hear you over there. And then he pans the vocals like left or right. Like, it's just so cute and adorable. And I just love Charlie. I think he's amazing. Best in his generation. Nobody better. So anyway, I forgot why we were talking. Oh yeah, about being an artist, right? So like
being an artist and taking criticism.
Yeah. So for me, I guess like, yeah, I've always struggled. Am I a real artist? Am I a wannabe? Am I a fake? Am I, you know, I have the imposter syndrome, all these typical things that many artists have. And so
the meme.
Yeah. Will I ever be as good as the old masters? Will I ever be? Yeah, I'm the best. I love it. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's a wonderful meme. Yeah, I'm the best. Well, because I think that artists do have this ego, right?
Right.
I mean, you know, do I think I'm the best singer-songwriter of all time? No, I know I'm not the best singer-songwriter. Do I think I wrote the best songs that I know how to write? Yeah. Do I think I did the best job I could ever do singing? No, I don't. And because I didn't try. I didn't really try. And
these were temp tracks.
Say again? Right. Most of them were.
Tracks,
that's right. Because when I tried to re-record some of the vocals 10 years after I did the original rough takes, I had a different relationship to the song. I couldn't get the emotion correct. I tried and I tried. And I remember one summer, probably summer 2024, in fact, like really trying, specifically the song Dance With Me. So dance with me tonight. You know, I just couldn't get it. So I made the decision to just use the original temp vocals and use the Logic's built-in pitch correction thing. I didn't use auto-tune, you know, which, you know, it's actually one song where on the harmonies, I just felt I kind of needed it. And there's a specific reason for it, but that doesn't even matter. But it was once I used auto-tune. And just for the background vocals. But on all the main vocals, you know, just a little bit of, like, only when I was like grossly out of tune. And so you can hear, like, especially on Wine and Song, actually, I just feel like some of the performances are so terrible. Anyway,
Right.
but, I think that, yes, I'm just reading Python. Again, I think I'm the exception to the rule, in that I had to learn to be a self-loathing instead of selfish. But yes, ego does seem to play a huge role to others. Yeah, it's interesting, the self-loathing.
Self-loathing versus selfish. That's an interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating, actually. It's a great,
Right.
it's a wonderful idea. I think many times they go hand in hand. I've always been self-loathing and self-destructive. And
Right.
I never ever loved myself, and that is only something I'm trying to finally learn late in my life. And yeah, I've always dealt with it, and I've always dealt with being selfish. And I guess as you get older and older and older, you tend to realize, like, oh shit, man, I have nobody left in my life. Why? Because I was too selfish, right? And so then you realize, like, too little, too late. But until you're sort of taken from this earth, there's always a chance to become a better person, right?
Right.
So, and I think that, I gave up my artistry, actually, about 10 years ago. I sort of hung up my jacket in a weird way because of Valentina. Because I understood, like, every relationship I ever had before, this is really personal, by the way, but whatever, let's go for it.
Okay.
Every relationship I had before, whatever romantic interest I had in my life, I would always tell her, look, if you want to be with me, you're getting involved with an artist. So warts and all, like, you have to accept everything. So if I'm in the studio at 4:00 in the morning, like, that's just how it is. And you have to deal with that. And you have to understand that you will always be the second love of my life. The first love of my life is my career and my music. And that's it. And if you can't get on board with that, then we're done. Oh, as long as you don't love other women. I will not love other women, but I will love my big mistress, my music, And so,
Yeah.
and they would always agree until it drove them crazy, and they all left because they couldn't handle it. And then finally, I met the person who I was just like, don't fucking say that to her. Just make her the number one. And you know what? My life has never been better. It's never been better.
Right.
The three relationships that are the most important to me in my life are you, Emanuele, and Valentina. Most important people in my life. And so I treat you well. I treat Emanuele well. You guys treat me amazingly. So we all have this great, self-respect and camaraderie. And that is, like, the most valuable thing I have in my life. I also love my students. I adore my students. And I literally, they're a huge part of my life. Teaching. I love teaching. I love helping people. People on our stream. I've grown to really care about, all of them. Like, I love seeing them. I feel like, like our extended family, in a way. And it's wonderful having them here. I'm sorry, Kiwi.
JT says
that you're.
Does selfishness equal ruthlessness on the way up?
Doesn't have to, but often does.
Right.
Yeah, often does. Like Steve Jobs, And so I think the greater the artist.
But I think those people are the worst off, right?
Oh, in
Because
life, yeah.
You could be the most successful person in the world, but if you're lonely, what
Steve
good
Jobs
is it to you?
is universally the most hated person probably ever. Like, everybody hates him and openly will just say it.
He was a
You
jerk.
see, what's his name? Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary.
Yeah, talking. He's like, Steve Jobs was a fucking asshole, but I learned this from him. When we worked together,
Right,
I learned blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Right. So he was so hated. And so I think that they do go hand in hand. And I know, especially once I got to Hollywood and I was, like, successful in the industry and I was working with Activision and Namco and, big AAA franchises and stuff, like, I was a bit of a dick. I was, but I lost everybody that was important to me in my life. I lost relationships, and I really changed once I met Valentina.
It's important to understand yourself, and it's important once you understand how you treat others, what you expect from them, and how you treat yourself. And I want to bring up Kiwi, who said, my first partner was emotionally abusive and I never dated since then. Kiwi, don't let one person do anything to you, man. Please.
Begging.
Yeah. I mean, you have to understand that was them. You are you, and yeah.
Kiwi, I'm begging you, man. Please, I'm begging you. Get the strength, man. Because look at the people who come to this stream. Look at Python, and JT is one of the most gentle, sweetest, and kindest men I've known. He's lovely and he's wonderful.
FP Trumpet.
Python, FP Trumpet is one of the sweetest, one of the nicest. Nick, Spin. I mean, these are all right, and they're all really just lovely people. No. And
yeah, there are good people out there, and I would say there are more good people than shit people.
That's right, man.
Just keep on trucking.
Please, man. We're gonna send you some extra special Pac-Man love from Orb Soundworks directly to you. Okay. I hope that puts a little smile on your face. Kiwi, listen to me carefully, please. I'm begging you, man. There are good people out there. I used to be not such a good person. I was completely selfish, completely self-absorbed. I hurt a lot of people. But like I said, I went through a massive change over the last 10 years, And one of the people during that whole period who helped me a lot was Emanuele, a guy 24 years younger than me. And he was extremely helpful and didn't tell me what I wanted to hear. He told me what I needed to hear. And he and it was a slow sort of, developing friendship, but it was a real friendship. And so I've learned, man, just fucking put love out in the world. Just do whatever you do in life. Just do it with love, which Bobby, he said the first time I ever said that, he thought it was a little cheesy, but it's true, man. Just do Kiwi. There's good people out there. They're just so freaking hard to find. But don't stop dating because it's not a reflection on you, Kiwi.
Right.
It's a reflection on them. Right. So
listen, I firmly believe the more people you date, the better you are.
Exactly. And you get better at dating. You get better at it.
You understand others better. You understand what you expect in a relationship better.
Yep.
Date.
Exactly.
You're going to find trash people. You're going to find awful people. You're going to find decent people. You're going to find great people. Maybe you will find somebody great and you will fuck it up.
Yep. And you'll lose them forever.
Yeah. And those you really learn. And you're like, okay, that person was pretty cool. I was the asshole. Next time, I'm not going to be that asshole.
That's right.
Like you, David. You said to Valentina, I'm not going to say
I'm not going to be the asshole. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not going to be the arrogant, self-absorbed artist who says my first love in life is me and my career and my music. Me. Me, myself, and I are the most important thing in this relationship, not you. You're here to serve my needs. Right. Like, this is the most selfish, egotistical dick move that you can fucking ever do. And, but you know what? I fucked up so many important relationships in my life. And I just, at a certain point, was like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Is it really worth it? And is your career really that important? Like, do you really need to? Because, after Pac-Man World 2 and after, leaving Hollywood and going back to Toronto, I had a massive emotional breakdown, like nervous breakdown, like really bad. Okay. And, I don't want to get into any of the details of it or, kind of what happened, but I lost, really important people in my life. And it scarred me.
You lost everything.
I literally,
I lost everything you had.
And there were many reasons why I left Hollywood, but my career never recovered. And it was, when I look back, it was a mistake, but it led me to where I am today here in Italy with Valentina, and I literally have never been happier in my entire life than I am now.
Right. Your past is what shapes you. And as long as you use it to grow,
yep,
you will be successful in your life. You may not be a billionaire, but I don't think any of that matters.
All
the money in the world doesn't mean shit if you're by yourself and lonely, and
that's right. I remember,
and not have somebody to share a sunrise with. Although I hate sunrises, but that's a different story.
That's a different story. But I remember telling you, I won't mention the person's name, but I was being, asked questions in a webinar, and, the person asking was like, you've not done a AAA video game in 15 years, is it a step down? Like, what a douchebag. Is it a step down for you to like be doing iPhone games and web games? And I was just like, no, I love doing them. I said, I'm earning money and I'm happy in my life. Isn't that the point? You fucking stupid piece of dirt, like what a douchey, stupid question to ask like basically saying, so how does it feel to be a failure? And it's like, you know what? I'd rather be a AAA has been than a never been. Like, I'll take that any day of the week. How many AAA titles have you done exactly? Oh, none. Right. And you have the balls to ask me this question. So yeah, I'd rather be a one-hit wonder than a zero-hit wonder. A has been is better than a never been. So I'll take that any day of the week. So look, your career doesn't define who you are. You're not like, who you are is defined by the quality people who you attract into your life. Bobby is a fantastic guy, and strange as it is, it was his wife, Sheila, who, helped me to see Bobby a little bit in a better way, and her acceptance of me. And she was like, we love you, David, you're great. And Bobby loves you. And, you're just, and just that was so lovely. And so it made me feel closer to Bobby, knowing that he has somebody that amazing in his corner. You know what I mean? And so and the fact that that's part of my world now, that eventually I'll meet them both in the real world. At some point they're going to make their way over to Italy, or I'll make my way over to LA. But it is the people like Emanuele is a treasure. He's literally a treasure. Yeah. He's the sweetest, kindest, smartest, Bobby actually takes, in terms of Orb Soundworks, it's Bobby's the smartest, and Emanuele is the second smartest, and I'm the dumbest. So in that order. But no, Emanuele is brilliant in so many ways, and talented, and just literally the best friend I've ever had, because he's the only friend who told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And that's how you got a real friend, because they'll tell you, David, you have a problem, and this is your problem, and you should be working on it. Now he said it in a really gentle way, but boy, did I ever hear him when he said it. And I was just like, yeah, man, you know what? You're right. And thank you for saying it. And I've been working on it. So anyway, so Kiwi, please, man, I'm telling you right now, I promise you that not everybody out there is going to hurt you, and that there's literally no way in the world of knowing anybody completely until they've hurt you. In other words, there's no big warning sign at the beginning. You might see the warning sign, but love has this weird way of blinding that. No, it'll blind you.
Yeah.
Right?
It does. It really does.
It does. And so you're sort of like, literally, there's literally nothing you can do, because number one, you might be in love, and the warning signs might be there, and you might see them after, but in the moment, you're in love. You don't see shit, Kiwi, I promise you there's good people out there. I promise. I guarantee you there are good people out there. And it's just so hard to find the good ones, man. And listen, I will tell you the day that I finally realized that I'm not a bad person. My whole life, I was always thought I was a bad person. And Valentina, if you meet her, is one of the sweetest, kindest, best people you can ever meet in your whole life. I remember one day I was just like struggling. I was just like, oh man, she's like, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I feel like I'm such a bad person. And she's like, why? And I said, oh, because this and that and the other and whatever it was. And she said to me, she said, David, you know what? A really bad person would never be worried about being a bad person. They would just be a bad person and not give a shit. And you give a shit. And that means by default, you're not a bad person. Now, I'm not saying I'm a good person. I still have a lot of things that I find to be different. It's a different thing. Right. I'm just ruling out the possibility that I'm a bad person because I don't intentionally ever try to do. Look at the lengths that I've gone to on this stream to protect somebody whose name I will never reveal, who has said some of the fucking worst things. Oh, do we have the meme? The enemy of music. Shit. Do we have that anywhere? Does anyone have that handy?
Know. I have to.
David Logan, the enemy of music. So, because I'm not a bad person. Now, that doesn't make me a good person. Doesn't by default mean I'm good. I'm a person who struggles with many demons in my life. I'm a person who has always had a difficult time with, relationships in general, just generally speaking. And so, yeah, I'm not saying like I'm a good person, but I'm just saying I'm not a bad person. And the point is, I promise you, there are not only good people out there, there are not bad people out there. And I think all of us struggle, with our demons, with our personal.
It's the nature of being human.
It is. And we find our place in the world through all these struggles that we go through, and it's part of life, Kiwi. Right. But please, I'm begging. We're all
just trying to do our best, one way or another.
That's exactly right. So, Kiwi, please, if you get knocked down, just get the frickin' hell back up. You know what my favorite metaphor is? It's a really strange one, but it's one of my favorites. It's in Fight Club when they're having one of the big fights in Big Lou's bar, And, Big Lou comes down and he's like, I want a piece of the action. And they're like, we don't do this for money. We do it for love. And he's like, well, then get the hell out of my bar, and, he's like, but we really want to fight here, and he's like, I don't give a shit, man. Get the fuck out. And he's like, did you fucking hear me? Get the fuck out. And Tyler's like, I don't think I heard you very well, Lou. What'd you say? Life is Big Lou. That's life. And you have to be Tyler Durden and just be like, yeah, I didn't hear you, man. What'd you say? Just get beat over and over, because every time you get beat, well, scar tissue that I wish you saw, right?
Right.
It's scar tissue. You build up the emotional scar tissue. And this is what I was sort of saying before about, my career as an artist and how your ego evolves and how eventually you mature and it doesn't hurt you as much. So say in all relationships, man, even the one with yourself, your own ego. So please, Kiwi, get back out there, man. Okay. Any other questions? I think we're sort of at that time, no?
Yeah, I think we're good. I don't see any questions in the stream. If anybody has a question,
I'll just go to Kiwi quickly just here saying, I don't see myself working in AAA games. Really hate the obsession that devs have with modern cinematic music. Yeah, I'll just tell you this. I agree with you. Melodies are now gone, and you're right. But what I'll say is that AAA world, when I was coming up in the industry, was really different, right? Pitfall 3D had an amazing melody, ba-bum, ba-ba-ba-bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. The Scourge theme, of course, Pac-Man World 2 had a theme. The melody was king, and I get it, but hopefully things will change. Yes, and Mr. Zimmer is responsible for the death of melody. It's absolutely true. And the obsession with the cinematic sound. It's true.
I mean, it's interesting you say that, because he would say that if you don't have a tune, you have nothing. And actually he says that
He doesn't know much about. Sorry,
he says, you have to have a tune. Like,
yeah, but what is tune? Melody and tune is different, right?
Well, I think what he meant was like was a melody, like something that stays in your head.
Yeah.
The Pac-Man.
So, okay. I mean, this could be a whole other podcast we could do on this. But
right.
Real quick,
maybe we'll save that for next week.
Let's save it for next week. I think though, if Hans Zimmer's saying that, then I mean, look, yeah, Gladiator, sure. Woof, bomb, 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 bomb. I mean, that is like, whoa, that is one of the best.
Yeah.
It's one of the best themes ever written in cinema. Like, I'll give it to him, man, But, and Pirates of the Caribbean's got a catchy little thing going on there. Dun, 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 and I don't think he wrote the whole thing, or it was somebody else's. I don't know, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I think
he made it his, no? But I'll say that maybe he began with the melody thing, but then he just sort of let it all go.
So when he came to Dune, he had an interview or something, and he said, I had to change my style because everybody was stealing it. So I had to make a new style. Because he wrote, epic cinematic, right? And then everybody was like, epic cinematic. The Brahms became the thing in trailers. Right, every trailer had a Brahms. And it was just like,
the reason I made that at the beginning of my demo reel is because you gotta be commercially appealing to the audience. So I put a Brahm in, and my Brahm is pretty Brahmin. Real quick, to Kiwi, I did just the very intro cutscene of Twisted Metal 4. So the old cinema footage, and right up until the part where the rock music begins. So all the old ragtime music and the Chicago, jazz styles and live trumpets and all that stuff. And then the cinematic parts as well. But then when the rock piece happens right at the very end of that intro cutscene, I didn't do the rock music. I did everything up to the rock music in the intro cutscene of Twisted Metal 4. That's all I did for that franchise. Anyway, let's wrap it up then, yeah? So,
okay.
Thank you all.
Hey, JT, can you just give me your nickname real quick on Discord so I can try to figure out what's going on for you? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, what a wonderful session we had. No, it's fun.
Great.
Good stuff, man. Thank you all for coming. Kiwi, please, man, get back up on the horse.
Yeah.
Just, get a, meet people the modern way, or the old fashioned traditional way, like Tinder. That's how I met Valentina.
Go out, man. Go out to the bars. Go out. Go join a running club. Go
do
join
whatever,
a sewing
man.
club. Whatever.
Do whatever, and just meet.
Be around people.
Be around people. Try to meet people, and just get back out there, man. Because not everybody is an asshole.
Say one thing. I don't remember who said it. Interesting people make interesting music.
That's right. I don't know who said that.
Go
either.
out there. Be interesting.
Yeah.
Have fun with people. It makes you better in every way.
Indeed, it does. So, don't give up, sir or ma'am. I don't know. It's hard to identify people these days because that's a risky proposition. So
you can just say dude.
I'm assuming you're a sir,
pretty...
but I shouldn't assume. So my bad. But get back out there, Kiwi. Sir is just a term of respect. No, so I only mean it that way. But I have no idea what your gender is actually. So. And I know we live in a world where, you shouldn't assume those things. So my apologies. But I'm just trying to say I respect you, and I hope you get back out there and get back up on the horse and date again. Because, I once heard a great definition of what love is. Love is giving someone the power to destroy you and trusting them enough that they won't use it against you. Such a great definition. Giving someone the power to destroy you, but trusting that they won't do it. That's one definition. There are many definitions of love. But regardless, we all need love. So get back out there, Kiwi. All right.
For sure.
And get the Spin. Get that UAD free stuff, man. That'll
Right, I'm gonna get that
inspire
too.
you. There's also like a synthesizer, a vintage synth, a polysynth. It's just get it. It's so good, man. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you all for coming. And like I always say, I think the purpose of life is to find some purpose in life. And I think the meaning of life is to find some meaning in life. And you guys all take care of yourselves and